Just because we made a decision when we were in our teens doesn't mean that we're stuck with it forever. We have now the opportunity to change, and we now have the opportunity to choose. We are ever evolving, and we are really supposed to change. Welcome to Spill the Creativity Podcast, the podcast where we will be having conversations with other creatives that will inspire us, keep us encouraged, and push us to reach our own goals. This is the place where we will be acknowledging the hard truths, because while this path is fulfilling, the truth is there's no easy way to do things. It all takes hard work. We are going to be talking about the good and the bad about choosing a creative career. If you're looking for a cup of stimulation for creatives, a warm cup of tea in this otherwise bittersweet pursuit, then you're in the right place. So let's get that cup of tea and get on with the conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spill the Creativity Podcast. Today, we are going to talk about the anxiety and the fear that we feel towards change. And I want to talk about it because change has been a recurring theme that my friends and I have been talking about quite often recently. And when I say change is like in the sense of switching interests, changing offers, changing niches, changing business models, changing life goals, changing life perspectives, and all that. Basically, change in whatever that may mean for you. And I feel like we are going through this, or we are having these like thoughts about change because as older millennials, I guess, we are in that phase where we are sort of figuring out what is next. If this is really what is meant for us, or if there is something bigger or better that's waiting, if we're supposed to move forward, if we're supposed to take a step back, whatever that may mean. But for me personally, one of my biggest ick really is about changing my mind. Changing my mind about something that I was so vocal about. I was like, yeah, hey, this year I will change from this to this, and I'm doing A, B, C, and D, and yeah, just wait for it. I'm going to head towards this change, and you'll see. And I told everyone about it. I told my friends, I told my family, I told the internet about it, and only to find out 6 months later that nope, this is not what I want after all. And to be fair, I'm not just saying that because I'm scared or, like self-sabotaging, whatever. Earlier this year, I made a commitment to make a pivot towards something in my business, and I really put my mind and my heart into it. And while I was experiencing all the changes and sort of had a glimpse of what my life was going to look like if I did push for that change, I realized that I did not like it after all. And it wasn't a good feeling when I was starting to realize that this was not for me. Having that realization stressed the shit out of me, to be honest. When I said that I put my mind and my heart into that change that I was pushing for, I was not kidding. I also put a lot of money into that change. I spent money for coaches and courses and tools and people, and I spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of emotions, trying to figure shit out. And so the realization that I did not like this after all that hard work, the emotional roller coaster, and of course, the money spent, I was so mad at myself. Like, what do you mean you don't like this anymore? After everything, you suddenly realize that this is not for you. How dare you? And so I was thinking, okay, maybe I'm just self-sabotaging. Maybe I'm just scared of this big goal and I'm doing my best to not continue so that I could have some sort of excuse or something or whatever, right? So I decided to continue. I went on with pursuing the big goal, but every day that I spent working towards it, I was no longer inspired. And it just stopped feeling right. I guess like pushing for this big goal sort of made me fall into my own version of a hamster wheel where I'm just clucking in and out in my business, like doing things that I have to do, but not really feeling good about it. And yeah, that realization really made me panic because the reason why I left corporate 2 years ago was so I could, pursue my dream life, pursue my dream business. And this was not how I envisioned my dream life or my dream business to look like. It also really made me feel bad because I was thinking this was supposed to feel right, right? I mean, the direction that I was heading is the direction that most people who are experiencing what I'm experiencing is headed towards. So why was I resisting? And true enough, after several coaching sessions and 35 pages of journal entries, I was able to finally admit to myself that I have indeed changed my mind. And it's okay. I had a glimpse and a taste of what that quote unquote dream life would look like, and I realized that I did not like it. And it's okay. I have spent so much effort, emotions, resources to reach this supposed dream life, and it's okay. One of my new favorite authors, Cara Alwill-Leba, beautifully wrote it in her book, Girl on Fire. You can change your mind at any time for any reason. You don't need permission, and you certainly don't owe anyone an explanation. Boldly choose to change, transform, and ascend into your higher self. Boldly choose to be the woman you want to be. Every time a woman unapologetically evolves, she creates a space for other women to do the same. Every time a woman chooses herself, she shows other women that it's okay to choose themselves too. I love this book so much. This, again, was Girl on Fire. It's a book that I read after I went through a creative rut, and I'm so happy that I picked this book up because it was the validation that I've been looking for. It was the guidance that I was looking for of what's next. Like, I was in a limbo of like if I should move forward, if I should take a step back, and I'm so happy that I found this book and it had most of the answers that I was looking for. And initially, I was so mad at myself for having gone through everything that I've gone through in the last 6 months only to change my mind. But now that I gave myself permission to change my mind just because my gut is telling me to do so instead of annoyance, I am now grateful for my past self for being so passionate about this goal and for really giving it my all. Because even if I ended up deciding not to push through with it, the experiences were invaluable and the lessons learned would be something that would help me with my now new goal. And if there's one thing I learned, it's that to keep your goals to yourself first so that you won't feel an external pressure to follow through just because you told everyone that you were doing it. I mean, for others, the external pressure works, but for me, it doesn't. So I should just really stop doing that. Also, I think that a lot of the fear we have towards change is mostly because of our parents or like the generation before us. And this is not to blame them, okay? I'm just stating facts that, like in general, they have the tendency to just like stick to one thing. Like how our parents used to only have one job and they stay with that job or that company forever. Like the job that they got after graduation is usually the same job or company that they retire from. And that was the norm back then. But now things are changing. The world is starting to get smaller in the sense where opportunities from another side of the world does not seem so far-fetched or so far anymore because of technology. And well, I guess that's what opportunities are for, right? They're supposed to be explored and experienced. And as human beings, we are really meant to change. We're not meant to decide once when we are like 16 or 18 years old and stick with that forever. I mean, okay, we were around 16, 15, or 18. I don't know. I don't know what is the age when we decide a college program, but we were around that age when we had to pick one subject or like pick one course. And we were so young back then. So I don't think we really knew what we wanted. Just because we made a decision when we were in our teens doesn't mean that we're stuck with it forever. We have now the opportunity to change, and we now have the opportunity to choose. We are ever evolving and we are really supposed to change. And I know that so much of this is a lot easier said than done. But yeah, change is inevitable and extremely scary, but it's a fact of life. If we are called or pulled into a different direction and if we want to go along with it, then it's okay. The next best thing to do is take baby steps towards it. Yes, baby steps. If you don't want to feel overwhelmed, I think baby steps is the way to go instead of like going full on leaping into it. But if that's also your thing, then go for it. So yeah, this has been yet another rambly episode. And if you're someone who is going through a big change or maybe even a small change, I hope this episode serves as your permission slip that it's okay. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to choose differently. I know that maybe in this stage of our lives, our decisions now involve a lot of money, several people, and other boring adult stuff. And dealing with these changes tend to be much harder because so many things are at stake. And while it might be noble to really think of those factors when making a decision, don't forget that your peace of mind and your happiness should outweigh everything else. And yeah, that's all for this episode. I hope you learned something from this, and I'll see you again for the next one. Thanks again for listening to Spill the Creativity podcast. If you like this episode, I would really appreciate it if you can give me a 5-star rating on Spotify and a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. Or you can also take a screenshot and tag me on Instagram at Spill the Creativity Podcast, and you can also try the special filters if you want. Thanks again for listening to this episode, and make sure to catch fresh drops every Thursday morning. Bye!